The Family Feud studio radiated its familiar warmth on that Thursday afternoon in May 2024. Steve Harvey positioned himself at center stage, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray suit with a purple tie, prepared to guide another episode through the entertaining format that had made the show a trusted presence in American homes for decades. The audience settled into their seats with eager anticipation. Cameras captured every angle with professional precision, and two families stood ready at their podiums for what appeared to be another standard competition. However, within the span of 20 minutes, a series of events would unfold that would compel Steve Harvey to make the unprecedented decision to halt production entirely, revealing a betrayal so profound that continuing with game show proceedings seemed unconscionable in the face of human devastation. If this is your first encounter with our content, please take a moment to subscribe and engage, because what follows demonstrates why some moments transcend entertainment and demand we bear witness to truth, even when that truth destroys the carefully constructed facade of a seemingly perfect marriage. Standing at the contestant podium was the Bennett family from Charlotte, North Carolina. The family consisted of 36-year-old Amanda Bennett, her husband of 12 years, 38-year-old Richard Bennett, their two children aged 10 and 8, and Amanda's younger sister Nicole. The Bennetts presented as an attractive, successful couple whose life together appeared enviable from external observation. Richard worked as a corporate financial analyst for a major banking institution, earning a substantial six-figure salary that provided comfortable suburban living. Amanda had left her career in marketing 6 years earlier to focus on raising their children, a decision the couple had made jointly based on their values and financial capacity. During the initial introductions, Steve had engaged in his customary banter with the family, asking about their lives in Charlotte and their experiences as parents. Richard had spoken confidently about his work, describing himself as someone who traveled frequently for business, often spending several days each week in different cities meeting with clients and managing regional accounts. Amanda had smiled appropriately during these exchanges, discussing her involvement in their children's school activities and her volunteer work in the community. From all surface indicators, they appeared to be a stable, prosperous family enjoying their moment on national television. What Steve Harvey could not have perceived, what the audience had no way of detecting, and what even Amanda herself did not fully comprehend in that moment, was that Richard Bennett's carefully presented image was about to collapse in spectacular fashion due to circumstances that would emerge through the most unexpected channel imaginable. The destruction would not come from Amanda's investigation or suspicion. It would come from a viewer watching the show's live taping feed, a woman who would recognize Richard Bennett and would make a phone call that would reach the production staff during a commercial break and would set in motion a revelation that would devastate Amanda's understanding of her entire marriage. The game proceeded through its initial rounds with standard play. The Bennett family performed well, demonstrating good teamwork and earning points that put them in strong position to advance. Steve facilitated the usual entertaining interactions, drawing laughter from Richard's occasionally awkward answers and from Amanda's good-natured reactions to her husband's responses. The family dynamic appeared warm and genuine, with Richard and Amanda displaying the kind of comfortable partnership that comes from years of marriage and shared life experience. During the second commercial break, approximately 15 minutes into the taping, a production assistant approached the stage manager with urgent information. A woman had called the studio's viewer hotline, a number provided for audience members watching the live taping feed who might notice technical issues or have legitimate concerns requiring immediate attention. The caller had identified herself as Lauren Mitchell from Atlanta, Georgia, and had made a claim so serious that the production team felt obligated to investigate before continuing with the show. Lauren Mitchell stated that Richard Bennett was her husband. Not her ex-husband, not her former partner, but her current legal husband of 7 years. She provided specific details including their marriage certificate number, their Atlanta home address, and photographs that she transmitted electronically to the production office showing herself and Richard together at what appeared to be recent family gatherings. She explained that Richard traveled extensively for work, often spending Monday through Thursday in Charlotte for business, returning to their Atlanta home on weekends. She had been watching the live taping feed as she often did during her lunch break, and had been shocked to see her husband standing on the Family Feud stage with another woman and children who were being presented as his family. The production staff faced an immediate dilemma. The claims could be false, perhaps coming from a disturbed individual or from someone with malicious intent toward Richard Bennett. However, the specificity of the information and the supporting documentation Lauren had provided suggested credibility that could not be dismissed without investigation. The stage manager made the decision to inform Steve Harvey of the situation before proceeding with the next round, recognizing that if the allegations proved true, continuing the show would be ethically problematic and potentially legally complicated. Steve was pulled aside during what the audience believed was a standard commercial break. When the situation was explained to him, his expression transformed from his usual affable demeanor to serious concern. He asked several clarifying questions, reviewed the photographs that Lauren had transmitted, and made his own decision about how to proceed. When production resumed, Steve did not return to the game. Instead, he addressed the situation with the gravity it demanded. Steve walked to center stage and spoke directly to the cameras and audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation that has come to our attention that requires us to pause this game. I need to have a private conversation with the Bennett family, and I am going to ask our studio audience to take a brief break while we sort this out. This is unusual, and I apologize for the disruption, but some things are more important than television production." The audience, sensing something serious had occurred, filed out quietly under the guidance of production staff. Once the studio was cleared of audience members, Steve approached the Bennett family, who remained at their podium looking confused and concerned. Amanda spoke first, her voice showing worry. "Mr. Harvey, what is going on? Did we do something wrong?" Steve's expression conveyed compassion for what he was about to do. "Amanda, I need to ask you some questions, and I need Richard to answer them honestly. Richard, we have received information during this taping that I need to verify with you directly." Richard's face showed the beginning of concern, though he maintained composure. "Of course, Mr. Harvey. What information?" Steve proceeded carefully, recognizing the potential for devastating impact. "We received a phone call from a woman named Lauren Mitchell in Atlanta, Georgia. She claims to be your wife. She has provided documentation including what appears to be a valid marriage certificate showing that you and she were married 7 years ago and that this marriage has never been dissolved. She provided photographs of you and her together, including some that appear to be recent. I need you to tell me directly whether these claims are true." The blood drained from Richard's face. Amanda's hand went to her mouth as she processed what she was hearing. The children, sensing distress, moved closer to their mother. Nicole, Amanda's sister, stepped forward protectively. Richard stood frozen, his expression cycling through shock, panic, and resignation as he realized the elaborate deception he had been maintaining had just collapsed. "Richard, I need you to answer the question," Steve repeated, his voice firm but not hostile. "Is Lauren Mitchell your wife? Are you legally married to her while also being married to Amanda?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch endlessly. When Richard finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "Yes, Lauren is my wife. We got married 7 years ago, but Amanda, I can explain this, it is not what it looks like." Amanda's face showed she was struggling to comprehend what she was hearing. "What do you mean you can explain this? You are married to someone else. We have been married for 12 years, we have 2 children together, we have built a life together. How can you possibly be married to someone else?" The pain in her voice cut through the studio with devastating clarity. Steve Harvey, who had witnessed many emotional moments during his years hosting Family Feud, looked visibly shaken by what was unfolding. He turned to production staff. "Stop all recording. What happens from this point forward is not for broadcast. This family needs privacy to deal with this situation." The cameras stopped rolling, though what had already been recorded would later become a matter of legal and ethical consideration regarding what could or should be aired. Richard attempted to explain, his words tumbling out in desperate justification. "I never meant for this to happen. I met Lauren when I was working on a long-term project in Atlanta. We got involved, and when she got pregnant, I married her because it seemed like the right thing to do. But I was already committed to you, Amanda. I could not abandon our life together. I thought I could manage both situations. I thought I could be present for everyone." Amanda's shock was transforming into fury. "You thought you could manage both situations. You have been living a double life for 7 years. Every time you told me you were traveling for work, you were actually going home to your other wife. Every weekend you were supposedly working on special projects, you were with her. You have been lying to me every single day for 7 years. Steve interjected, recognizing that Richard's presence was causing Amanda additional distress. Richard, I think you need to step away from the stage right now. Amanda needs space, and you need to figure out how you are going to deal with the legal and personal consequences of what you have done. Production staff will escort you to a private area. Richard opened his mouth as if to protest, then seemed to recognize the futility. He was led off the stage by security personnel, leaving Amanda standing with her children, her sister, and Steve Harvey in the now empty studio. Once Richard was removed, Amanda collapsed emotionally. The composed woman who had been playing a game show minutes earlier was now sobbing uncontrollably, her sister holding her, while the children clung to both of them in confusion and fear. Steve gave them time and space, instructing production staff to bring water and tissues, ensuring the family had privacy while Amanda processed the initial shock of the revelation. When Amanda had regained some composure, Steve sat down with her to discuss what would happen next. Amanda, I am so sorry this happened, and I am even more sorry it happened here in this way. You deserve better than to find out like this. What do you need right now? How can we help you? Amanda's response revealed she was beginning to shift from shock to practical considerations. I need to call a lawyer. I need to figure out if my marriage is even legal. If Richard was already married when he married me, then what does that mean for our children, for our finances, for everything we have built together? Steve had already anticipated these needs. We have legal resources available. I am going to connect you with attorneys who specialize in this kind of situation. They will help you understand your legal position and your options. We are also going to provide you with access to counseling services for you and your children, because this is traumatic, and you are going to need support to get through it. The practical assistance Steve offered provided Amanda with some sense of structure in the chaos her life had just become. Nicole, Amanda's sister, asked the question that was on everyone's mind. How could he do this? How could someone maintain two completely separate families for 7 years? How is that even possible? Steve's response reflected his own difficulty comprehending the deception. People are capable of extraordinary compartmentalization when they are motivated to hide truth. Richard apparently convinced himself he could maintain 2 marriages, 2 families, 2 complete lives. The logistics alone must have been incredibly complex, but people who are determined to deceive can create elaborate systems to support their deception. As the immediate crisis stabilized slightly, practical questions emerged about the television production itself. The episode could not air in any conventional sense given what had occurred. The production company faced decisions about what to do with the footage that had been recorded, what obligations they had to the parties involved, and how to handle the situation ethically and legally. Steve made clear his position. We are not going to exploit Amanda's pain for ratings. Whatever we do with this footage, it will be done with her consent and with consideration for her well-being and her children's well-being. In the hours that followed, while still at the studio, several significant developments occurred. Lauren Mitchell was contacted directly by production staff and confirmed her claims with additional documentation. She revealed that she had been unaware of Amanda's existence until watching the live taping feed. Richard had told Lauren that he traveled to Charlotte for business Monday through Thursday, maintaining the same story in reverse that he had told Amanda about traveling to Atlanta. Lauren had believed she was Richard's only wife and had been equally devastated to discover the truth. Legal counsel was brought in to advise both Amanda and Lauren, who found themselves in the unexpected position of being victims of the same man's elaborate deception. The attorneys explained that Richard had committed bigamy, a criminal offense in most states, including North Carolina and Georgia. They outlined the complex legal process that would be required to untangle the marriages, determine which marriage was legally valid, address custody and support for the children from both relationships, and sort through the financial complications created by Richard's dual life. Financial investigation revealed the extent of Richard's deception and the resources he had devoted to maintaining it. His substantial salary had been sufficient to support 2 households, though both families had lived with less financial comfort than his income should have provided. Money that Amanda had believed was being saved or invested had actually been supporting Richard's Atlanta household. Lauren had faced similar financial constraints, never understanding why their lifestyle seemed modest given Richard's reported income. Steve Harvey remained at the studio for several hours, ensuring Amanda had the support and resources she needed before leaving. He spoke with her privately about the road ahead, drawing on his own life experience and his understanding of human nature. Amanda, what Richard did to you is inexcusable. There is no justification for this level of deception. But I want you to understand that this is not a reflection on you or your worth. This is about Richard's choices, Richard's character, Richard's willingness to lie and manipulate. You did nothing to deserve this, and you are going to get through this, though I know that seems impossible right now. The conversation that developed between Amanda and Lauren in the days following the revelation was unexpected, but ultimately beneficial for both women. They discovered they had much in common beyond being victims of Richard's deception. They had similar values, similar approaches to parenting, similar life goals. They decided to support each other through the legal and emotional processes ahead, rather than viewing each other as adversaries. Their children, half-siblings who had never known of each other's existence, would eventually be introduced carefully with appropriate therapeutic support. Richard Bennett faced immediate and severe consequences for his actions. His employer, upon learning of the bigamy and the deception it required, terminated his employment. The criminal investigation into bigamy charges proceeded in both North Carolina and Georgia. His relationships with all of his children were severely damaged by the revelation of his deception. The financial resources he had used to maintain two households became subject to legal proceedings as attorneys worked to equitably distribute assets and establish appropriate support arrangements. 3 months after the shocking revelation, Amanda returned to Steve Harvey's talk show, Not Family Feud, to discuss what had happened and how she was navigating the aftermath. The transformation in her appearance and demeanor was remarkable. While she still carried visible pain from the experience, there was also strength and clarity that had emerged through the process of confronting truth and rebuilding her life on honest foundations. Amanda explained that her marriage to Richard had been legally voided since his prior marriage to Lauren had never been dissolved, meaning Amanda's marriage had never been legally valid. However, the court had established Richard's parental obligations to support the children from both relationships. Amanda had returned to work, rebuilding the marketing career she had set aside years earlier. She had connected with support groups for people who had experienced similar betrayals, finding community and understanding with others who comprehended the unique pain of discovering a partner's double life. Lauren appeared on the segment as well, discussing her own journey through the aftermath. She had chosen to pursue divorce from Richard, unable to rebuild trust after such profound deception. She and Amanda had developed a friendship based on shared experience and mutual support. Their children had been introduced gradually with therapeutic guidance and were forming relationships as half-siblings. The two women had created an unexpected but functional extended family structure that prioritized the children's well-being while supporting each other's healing. Steve used the platform to address broader issues of trust, deception, and the warning signs that might indicate a partner is hiding significant truths. Relationship experts discussed the phenomenon of people living double lives, the psychological mechanisms that enable such sustained deception, and the impact on victims who discover they have been systematically lied to for years. The conversation provided education and validation for viewers who had experienced similar betrayals, while offering guidance for those trying to rebuild after devastating discoveries. The segment concluded with Amanda offering advice to others who might be facing similar situations. If you discover your partner has been lying to you about fundamental aspects of your relationship, know that the betrayal is not your fault. You did not cause it by being inadequate or by failing to meet their needs. People who choose deception do so because of their own character deficits, not because of anything lacking in their partners. Get legal help immediately to protect yourself and your children. Get therapeutic help to process the trauma. And know that you will survive this, even though it feels impossible in the beginning. As this devastating story reaches its conclusion, several critical lessons merit consideration. Steve Harvey's decision to halt the show when Richard's betrayal was uncovered demonstrated appropriate prioritization of human well-being over entertainment production. His instinct to protect Amanda from further exploitation and to provide substantive support rather than simply capturing dramatic footage reflected ethical leadership that honored the gravity of the situation. Amanda's journey from shock and devastation to rebuilding and strength illustrated the resilience humans possess when facing even the most profound betrayals. Her willingness to share her experience publicly, once she had processed the initial trauma, provided validation and hope for others navigating similar circumstances. The unexpected friendship that developed between Amanda and Lauren demonstrated that people who might naturally be positioned as adversaries can choose support and solidarity instead when they recognize their common experience as victims of the same deception. Richard Bennett's actions and their consequences serve as stark reminder that deception, regardless of how carefully constructed or elaborately maintained, ultimately collapses under the weight of its own contradictions. The damage caused by his choices extended far beyond the immediate pain of discovery, affecting his children's sense of security, his former partner's ability to trust, and his own future relationships and opportunities. If this account has affected you, or if you recognize elements of deception in your own relationships, please engage with this content and subscribe to our channel. These stories of betrayal and recovery matter profoundly because they remind us that truth, while sometimes devastating, provides the only foundation for authentic relationship and genuine healing. Steve Harvey's decision to halt Family Feud production after uncovering a husband's betrayal will be remembered not as entertainment, but as a moment when human decency took precedence over television production, demonstrating that some revelations demand we stop everything and simply bear witness to truth, supporting those devastated by it while refusing to exploit their pain for commercial gain.